Well, today I'm finally getting back to working on my E36, and to do so, I want to turn it around in my driveway. I know I don't have a bumper bar on the front, so there's no way for me to go to the tow hook. So I'm going to pull the nose panel from bumper headlights out so I don't mess them up, and probably throw a strapper probably around the subframe so I can drag this thing and spin it around before I start working on it. So everything's currently pretty much just held on with either a couple screws. I think I have the headlights held in at the top, the rad support maybe has these corner ones, probably a 10 mil nut or two onto the frame rail. The rest is just zip ties, so I'm gonna get started yanking all that off. Well, the front clip is off. Everything here, I'll throw this stuff in the car because the interior is pretty much empty still. Then the headlights and corner lights I'll store elsewhere because they're a little nicer and I don't want them to get messed up. But I'll store that stuff, grab my tractor, and then figure out how I'm going to drag this thing to move it. Well, I've got it moved up there now, and that took a ton more work and time than I expected, but being by myself, and I don't know, it is what it is, but it worked. I got it up there. Now I'm going to clean up the space that it was in. It's been sitting here for probably 4 months or so, if not longer. So I'll clean that up and then should just push right down the hill and right to the space. All right. Well, it's time to get this thing up in the air. Well, that was easy. Pretty much everything under the hood before, but the only things really I have left are the 2 motor mount nuts and a couple coolant hoses at the back of the manifold. So I'm going to tackle those quick. That way everything under here is buttoned up, and then I can get underneath and work on the couple things that need done under there. So I've always struggled with these heater hoses on the back of the block or behind the manifold. And they go into a control unit and then into the firewall. So instead of messing with it and trying to disconnect the hoses back there, all I did was took the 10 mil out that is the connector where it connects into the firewall, and then unmounted the valve from the firewall. And the next thing I just got to do is unplug the connector. And I'm just going to pull it out with this piece in the back here and not have to worry about disconnecting all the hoses. So that should make it a lot easier, and for reinstallation too. So, well, I almost forgot a couple things. There's still the throttle cable, which has to come off. That'll stay. I'll just kind of tuck it out of the way. And then the fuel lines. So I'm actually just going to put a zip tie around the rear one, and then when I go to put this back together, I'll just reference this video to make sure I know which one's the rear one as far as feed and return, so I don't have them mixed up. Well, that wraps up pretty much everything from the top side. So I might have to do a little more with the fuel lines once I get it underneath. I might have to unbolt a bracket for the fuel filter just to make sure they aren't attached to any of them. I think it might be attached to the motor mount arm on the driver's side, but remove that then, and then pretty much exhaust and transmission things, drive shaft, shifter, and slave cylinder. There's really not too much left to do. Probably get under tonight, spray the remaining exhaust bolts, the collector bolts from the manifold, spray those with some BB Blaster. Also plan to separate the exhaust at the after the mid pipe from the cap back, so it's easier for me to store. So spray that stuff down, and then hopefully tomorrow yank that stuff off and then get this motor out of here.